No, wait. Are we?
Are we
Yes.
here?
No. Are we?
Is this a thing? Are we
Wait, I
doing
don't
the
know.
thing?
Are we doing that thing that we do every week? No.
Yay!
Hey. Pew 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 pew. Oh my
Welcome,
God.
everybody.
Welcome back, everybody. It's been a week.
Monday was the longest month of my life
Sorry, I'm laughing. I was part of the
because I
show,
know
not
you
part
know
of it,
that
but
feel. Yeah.
no, dude. Okay. Um, I will say this: you handled it like a champ,
You did
and
too. No,
and
I
you
mean, like,
know,
okay. So let me for everybody in the chat and for everybody listening to the podcast, welcome to the best of our week, episode
absolutely,
43.
43. Yes.
We got to Monday night. I think it was like 10 p.m. And you send me this text with like a smiley face, and you're like, "Hey, I just gotta say, congratulations for making it to the end of the night."
It was
And we're
it
like,
was
right back at you, man. This was
it's
such
it's
a ridiculous combination of embargoes to have
oh my
to
God.
produce videos
First
for.
ever have I had two embargoes hit the same day, a morning and an evening. I mean, thank God they're in morning and evening. They're not both in the morning. But this whole shenanigans of, I mean, okay. The reality of the matter is, obviously the phone was already out, the pixels were out, but the
Yeah,
reviews were all going to be kicking off in the morning. So it was kind of a secondary embargo.
sure.
But the Xperia Pro I was coming out later that night, and then believe it or not, like during that day when I was doing all the stuff, there were a whole bunch of leaks of it. Actually, it got
Yeah.
leaked. Sony was like really good up to the day before, and somehow it was like I saw it on an Arabic channel. They were talking about it. I was like, oh my God, how did
Hmm.
they find out? And you, to top all of that, had the podcast to tackle on top of everything. That's why I was congratulating you. I'm like, dude, you went way beyond me, and I felt burnt out at the end of the day. So I was
And
like,
and I also had to finish a video for reviews.org. So
and
I
of
was in
course, you
for
had
four on one
one
day.
day. Yeah, no, hey man, if you're gonna, well, same thing. I mean, I had two English and two Arabics. All
Yes.
four videos. I posted all four at the same
Salud.
day. Congratulations, welcome to the club. The four videos in a day. Now,
Mr.
I'll,
Four videos in a day.
we're gonna hashtag it four
Yeah.
videos in a day club. I'd like to see somebody else pull that off. And one of my videos was 25 minutes. Ah,
Yeah.
25 minutes. And anyways, I was late to both embargoes. By the way, the first one, Juan and I were like, TK, where's the video?
Like
I
we're working together. I just as soon as you push upload, I just need the link.
I
Oh, it's coming
know.
during the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in the podcast. I can't put the link. I actually have on the YouTube description. I had to write TK's part one coming soon because I
Soon.
say in the video like
Yeah, no,
click
no.
below the link.
So for me, I'll say this. Thank you for collaborating. Thank you for allowing us to put this.
Yeah,
We work together all the time, but I love the fact that we were able to collaborate on this effort and that we both didn't call it a review. We didn't jump in and throw the word review just to get the views kind of thing. It
for
was
sure.
really more about focusing on the different aspects that we value or that we like to basically showcase how these things work. So I was very happy with the videos, and it was definitely a labor of love. All of the
Oh
work,
yeah,
all the testing, pulling the data, pulling the clips, and so on. I actually maxed out the storage on my phone. That's how
same.
crazy it is. You
Oh,
know,
same.
it was
Yeah,
like
like
I
oh,
didn't know
that happened
128
fast.
would fill. Well, yeah, 128 filled up quickly. Um, I was
Well,
at the end.
to be fair, I mean, like, just so that people understand, when I do something stupid like a batch photo processing test, that's 10 gigabytes of raw files that I'm having the phone chew up. So, almost a tenth of my storage is taken up by just that one test.
Yep.
And then I've got my video rendering test, I've got my video editing test, I've got my audio podcast mixdown test, I've got my RAR compression test. Yeah,
I like
easy
that.
for me to say apparently. The like by the time I'm done doing all of my performance testing, I'm down like 40 gig, and then I go out and shoot, and I'm taking
Photo.
these clips of 4K 60 frame per second video.
Hmm.
Now it's this stupid benchmark thing that we have to do to see how long you can record 4K video for. I stop
How
at a
did
half hour.
How did that actually become a thing, though? Like, when did that become a gold
It's
standard
all,
of the?
but do you know what I mean? It's like some of this performance testing we do because we genuinely want to see how these things handle different situations, and some of this performance testing we do just so that we can end run around stupid comments from trolls.
Yeah. No,
Like,
I know.
oh, Pixel 5a isn't worth it because you can only shoot 10 minutes of 4K 60 video at a time. And you're like, what numbskull is taking a mid-ranger phone and is trying to shoot
and
like
that much
90
4K.
minutes of soccer with it in 4K
It's
60
4K
from the
6.
stands?
I was about to say, and then the distance that you are, where it's going to be pointless to have that much fast recording, anyways.
For sure.
Sure, yeah.
We're all real worried about that.
I was very worried, man. I was waiting for that part of the video.
I've gone through 4 strands of pearls from all the clutching. It's just one right after the other.
Well,
Woe
for
is
me, it is always going to be somebody that's not going to be happy with it. I will say this before we get too far. I do want to say welcome to everybody in the chat. Of course, we have David Byrne. David's in there. Jeff is in there. John Brophy. Sorry, I'm saying that correctly. Greg, and of course Sam, our dos duo dos,
Our duo
buddy
dos.
from another mother. And of course, Tech for Your Needs. Aditya is in there, of course. Hey man, how you doing? Vasicos is in there. Barry Johnson. And hold on, did I miss somebody else? Oh, Steve DeRoche, of course. Ranesh. Everybody. Sorry, I'm like scrolling all the way to the
we got
top.
the good crew this week. Not like last week. Those people
Yeah.
were lame. This week, we've
This
got all
week.
the sexy mama jammas.
Abso-flippin'-lutely. Deal breaker, send it back. That's El Jefe was with us on this one. He's like, yeah, no 90 minutes of 4K 60 on that phone. Shut it down. Send it back.
So I want to cut straight to the quick. I feel like this podcast for the two of us, especially as we're talking about Pixel 6, we can maybe spoil some of our talking points for our reviews that are going to
Oh
be
yeah,
coming
no,
out soon.
definitely. We've had a full week with it. We just barely turned full week, actually, didn't we? Yeah,
I still
just about.
don't feel like I'm going to title my video review. I think I'm going to do the 1 week with kind of a thing. Just share some more thoughts philosophically, kind of talk about where I feel Pixel lines up and what we should be looking forward to. Because I really feel the grand promise of Google using their own SoC is something that should be measured in years. Not
absolutely.
In 5 days of use and like a long weekend where I shot like my daughter's birthday party. You know, like I think I need a bit more than that.
A little bit more
to really talk it up.
Maybe your wife's birthday party at the same time, and then maybe I think that's like one more birthday.
I'll go crash some other kid's party at a park and also
Show
be
up.
like,
It's like, hi, it's okay. I'm a YouTuber. I'm an influencer.
I'm
Have
on
you heard
the
of me?
internet.
Yeah, I'm
It's
I'm not on
okay.
TikTok, but I'm on the other cool site, the Twitters.
So
I'll say-
I want to fire this
Sorry.
point blank. Not letting you even get your thoughts in order yet. I'm just putting you on the spot right now.
Go.
Both you and I
Yeah.
shared a SIM detachment angst with the Pixel 4 XL.
Yes.
Where even me being the LG shill, you rocking some Samsung gear, we were both kind of taken aback by like how long our SIM cards stayed in the Pixel
XL.
4. And like we kept coming back to that phone. I keep
Yep.
coming back to that phone to talk about like performance and video rendering and things like that. Are you getting the sense that I know mine's right over here.
It was in Armor's
it upside
H.
down.
You say Pixel 4 XL right there.
So
And hold on, let me see. Are we back?
I'm putting you on the spot. I mean,
No, we're not.
We shared this this affection for the Pixel 4. Are you starting to feel like you might have a vibe on Pixel 6 replicating some of that idea?
So I'll be honest with you. I was hoping for that to happen. Okay. And I know it's going to sound like it's a 360. But you know, the reality of the matter is, I'm not really good at this. I love this I love this phone, man. I don't know how to say this. I don't know if it's because I built up so much expectations to it and it didn't fail. Like it met all of the expectations and then some, but it's, the only way I can describe it is so I have my SIM card right now in a few phones, but I'll say this. Anytime I wanted to do anything with the phone, my hands go straight to the Pixel 6 Pro. My hands gravitate to it. I know that when I want to use it to take, B-roll, when I want to take it, use it to take a thumbnail, when I want to take it outside and go take pictures of my son, I'm actually preferring and going to that. I love that. that knowing every time you use it, you know exactly how it's going to be, and it's going to not only meet but exceed your expectations. I did a couple of like while I was testing gaming, I focused also on a lot of pictures and videos because I'm building up to my 1 week experience, like you were saying. So I
Yeah.
went to a pumpkin patch, I went to basically a flower garden, the Sconso Gardens here in Southern California. So seriously, oh, and then just to top it off, the Bluetooth audio codec support on the Pixel 6 Pro shatters the S21 Ultra's expectations of where the mediocre connection that you get there. To me, this has been music listening, content creation, content consumption. I just gravitate to it. So yeah, no, 5G is on it crazy good, like better. I'm getting access to the T-Mobile UC
I
networks.
caught all that too because there was all of this grumbling, this like, well, it's got a it's got an older 5G modem from
Yeah, somebody was
Samsung, and you're
commenting
like,
on it. It's like it's an older Samsung modem. Like, really? That's what you're gonna pull? But yeah.
first of all, we don't get to play with the Samsung modem here in the United States, and now I'm feeling a little left out because for all of this, again, this like hand wringing, and Qualcomm has the
Qualcomm
name
modems, yeah.
for 5G and for wireless radio kit. My Pixel 6 Pro grossly outperforms my OnePlus 9.
Yeah.
It's eking out like head to head or minor victories against my numbers from my Samsung and against my Vivo, where my Vivo for a BBK phone was surprisingly good, especially using Wi-Fi 6.
Oh, yeah. No, Wi-Fi
The
connection is
Pixel,
also very solid.
very strong. I mean, like how much bandwidth I've invested in to have like 10 gigabit Ethernet connections and Wi-Fi 6 to talk to things wirelessly so that I can stream ridiculously high bitrate 4K movies to my TV. Gross overkill, but like I like it. That's my speed.
No, I'm with you.
Pixel 6 is utilizing that significantly better than I thought it would, but also quite a bit faster than a number of the Qualcomm powered phones. That's very anecdotal. That's my home under my cell phone tower with my Wi-Fi router.
Yeah.
But it's, I only have the data point of me to share with all of that. It's been interesting for me to see what Google is trying to accomplish here isn't just an SoC and that's how they're going to compete and they're kind of cutting Qualcomm out. It does seem like there is a kind of holistic effort in all of the components, all of the management, the wireless radios. You were talking about Bluetooth. Let me just spoil it for everybody right now. My hugest gripe with Duo 2, this Bluetooth performance is weak sauce.
Oh,
I can get about 10 feet from this phone with my edifiers, and I can clearly hear LDAC drop out. Like, it's gone. If I put this in my back pocket, my earbuds
body.
immediately cut out because my derriere is a Faraday cage. Pixel 6 has been refreshingly stable for a much wider variety of use. And again, we're supposed to be really lit up and amped up that like the big name in radio management is Qualcomm, and this is Google walking away from, and I feel like they've covered their bases really well on this phone.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing that drove for me was the fact that, worked with every single DAC that I plugged into it, worked with any pair of headphones or buds that I had. The Pixel Buds A worked perfectly, but when I plugged in the Liberty 3 Pros, I got LDAC at 32, 96 kilohertz at 32, but it was just, I was getting literally the best performing audio. And I just gravitated back to it. This is literally the experience. Like, I don't want to play music out of any other device. I want to listen to the best quality audio on it. I want to watch the content there. I've been basically just, that's how I've been doing it.
Sorry,
I'm getting that
Vazico's
feel.
kind of got me with the thick Faraday. If that's what we want to call my ass,
I
I'm good
was going to
with
say
that.
hashtag Faraday cage, but yeah, no. Vazico's kind of goes hashtag. He added the thick Faraday cage. Aditya, you're slipping, man. That's all I can say that right now. Oscar, take
Yeah, I really
Oscar,
feel like
slow now.
this was an easy setup for a good only Juan's joke,
And only one's coming to you very soon.
I guess we're done with that. That's fine. It's okay. I mean, I'm not gonna miss it or anything. It's cool, I guess. So, we did another Team Pixel meetup today, where
I
our good
know.
friend Trisha Hirschberger was
I was
hosting
excited.
one of the
Trish got a chance.
panels.
Like I didn't even know she was there till I did that quiz, or they were doing
I
a
know. So they
survey.
set it up really weird. So there were a bunch of different like influencers and content creators and people that were each hosting different panels, and they gave us this like personality quiz, and then that kind of pointed you to one of the rooms that you were supposed to be in. So of course I answered all the techie questions like a techie nerd,
I
and it
was like,
dumped me right in Trish's room. I was like,
introducing
oh,
that
oh,
makes
it's my
sense.
friend.
I was like, I'm totally with you. I mean, I wasn't surprised that I landed in the techie section, but it was more about because I did the survey and I got the result before I found out that there was other rooms. I thought it was essentially like one event for uh, but long story short, it was a fun event to hang out with friends, and it was nicely, you know, teamed up with other like-minded people, and to see Trish hosted was actually very fun. 'Cause, I kept like trying to raise my hand, trying to help out and do all of that stuff, but um,
So I
it's
was
fun.
shooting B-roll like crazy because I'm trying to cut for a video for tomorrow. So I was like, I even like took down this camera so I could go shoot over there and get like a B camera, and I didn't even have a mic plugged in. So I'm just like running over to my keyboard. Haha, that was so funny. Trish running right back over, push
Go over there.
record.
Talk about double teaming it there. No, dude, it was definitely
It was rough.
it was a nice little show. And Trish rocked as usual. This is her bread and butter. She live streams every week. Obviously, this is she's no stranger to that. But seriously though, very surprised, very pleasantly surprised with the Pixel 6 Pro. And about my only regret, I would say to this today is the fact that I think I need to get a bigger storage capacity one. It's
Yeah.
it's nothing's wrong with the phone. It's just
No.
128 is kind of tight, and for the amount of content that I like to shoot, because I think one of the things I learned for the Pixel thing that we did is, again, we're techies. We see this as an extension, as a tool. This is what we it's a computer, so we really value all of the things you can do with it. And I feel like since we don't have expandable storage like the Sony's, yeah, you have to go for the higher one. And I feel like even at the what's it called, the 899, not the 890, the 999 price tag, I think it's
Yeah.
still a much better deal than some of the other options on the market. So yeah, I
Yeah,
love it.
and it
I love it.
definitely
I love
does
it.
drive home. I mean, you just brought up Sony, and we'll definitely be talking
Oh
about
yes,
Xperia during this show too. So everyone in
yes,
chat, have your questions ready because we're still giddy silly pants over our excitement for the Sony.
uh,
But it's
absolutely.
been interesting, like going Duo 2, because I just got base model, was the only thing I could get from Best Buy the day of the launch. So I've got base model 128 on the Duo 2, base model 128 on the Pixel 6, and 512 gigabytes of built-in storage on the Xperia. It throws into immediate relief. Like,
Absolutely, and that's
how
internal on top
lean?
of the SD of the
128.
terabyte.
Yeah, I know. Well,
Xperia can take you one and a
it's
half
funny.
terabyte. Yeah,
My fastest card is only 256. So it's funny. It's like I'm bumping up the storage. I am using the memory card slot,
I
but
know.
not by
Not,
as much as what's already in the phone. So when it comes to Pixel 6, this is definitely crossed over for me. 128 is livable, but
mhm.
I genuinely am that guy where I've got a ton of productivity and content creation apps.
Hmm.
I've
Hmm.
got a catalog of games. There are a bunch of games that I like to have up
Speaking of,
like on the phone at a moment's notice, and then on top of that, everything I shoot on my daughter's 4K 60 because I don't know. There are some times where I like to cut up like a little family video, and if I do, I always finish at 4K 30. But
mhm,
sometimes I just like the extra clarity, and there are sometimes I like to stretch and do like a little slow
little
mo,
slow
like when
mo. Yeah, no,
she's at soccer practice or something like that. So I just shoot. I mean, like again, I just shoot everything at 4K 60, and then I kind of figure out how I want to use it later.
hmm.
I am burning through storage now. Where
And
64 used to be perfect for all my apps, we used to have more phones with memory cards.
yep.
So I could put 128 or
And you can
256.
move that content off the internal storage, which we
Exactly.
can't do that anymore. Also, because of the fact that now front-facing camera is 4K 30, 4K 30 is the lowest resolution I shoot. Which
Yeah.
causes all of this to be.
The lowest quality I shoot is 4K 30.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so a little bit of a joke. I was talking to Juan earlier this week when he was sending me the clip to put into my video for the Xperia.
That's funny.
I made the mistake of asking him, "Is it going to be in 4K?" And then Juan's like, "Is there any other resolution that?"
Did you want 8K? Are you trying to talk trash about my 4K camera?
I make mistakes. I mean, I'll be honest. It was middle of the day, or maybe a little latter part of the day. We had already gone through 2 video posting. I was already late. I posted the Arabic video data, and then of course I still have to do my day job. This is not like an exclusive, like all of that. I still have to kind of still do the regular work. And I made a mistake, and I asked if it was in 4K. Of course, it was in 4K, and I had to make sure
Next
that
time
my
you do
video.
that, I'm gonna finish off the video in 8K just to mess with you. Just be like, here you go.
The clip that you sent me was like 1.5 gigs, and it was only 2. Yeah, no.
Okay, but this is the thing, and I know, like in all frustration, I know we're YouTubers.
David
and
Burns
we
wants
work
it in
with
12K, by the way.
12K. All right,
12K.
I guess it's 12K won't be the next. Wait a minute. So we've gone from 4 to 8K.
Yeah. Would it go to 16?
So the next has to be like another power of 2, right?
Yeah.
So it's got to be 16K.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Because if you're thinking of
1440.
1440p, and then from 1440p to 2K, from 2K to 4K, from 4K to 8K, then it goes 16.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a multiple. Yeah, exactly.
Citation given. No, when you asked me for those clips, I was like, well, if you're going to edit this into another project, I don't want to mix it down so that it's already like YouTube squashed. So I gave you like what I felt was a reasonable balance of video fidelity, but at a slightly smaller file size. So just kind of squished it down a little bit, but it was still going to be a really big file. So I always hate it when someone's like, yeah, I'll totally do a thing on your channel. And then they send like 720p footage that's like 2 megabit per second. You're like, I can't use that.
No, I will say this. I appreciate it. It fit perfectly into my timeline, and minor color grading. Other than that, it was just to kind of match the color tone of the rest of the video. But it was definitely appreciated. Like, I'll just say that it was nice, and we'll talk a little bit about the Xperia, the big Xperia that's in there. So you asked me the question, but we didn't kind of reverse it back to you.
Sure.
How are you doing with the Pixel 6 Pro? Is it giving you that Pixel 4 XL vibe, or are you kind of in, because you have so many new toys, it kind of,
so that's the frustration, is like I'm bouncing back and forth. So I'm the camera nerd. I kind of like the Vivo camera a little better. Just the software and the layout and everything, but the Pixel is still more. I liked for the Pixel 6, I like to use words like effortless.
I think that's a big part of what they're trying to do. Yeah,
getting around the phone, getting around the camera, and I did a video on the Pixel 5a camera app, which is obviously very similar to what's in the Pixel 6. Mm-hmm. The reason why for the camera, and I'm speaking very specifically about the camera right here. Mm-hmm. And just like I kind of felt this way back during the Pixel 4 XL into, like from the V50 to the V60, I feel the same way about the Vivo, where Google has made it so effortless to use as a point and shoot. It actually kind of gets in my way sometimes when I'm trying to just clean up the look of some of my footage. Mm-hmm. One of the things that really bugs is when I'm trying to get like low light shots or golden hour shots. Mm-hmm. I like a certain look that doesn't lean too heavy into like the warm glow. I find like all of the auto processing modes on most phones can start to make golden hour almost look kind of urine yellow. Mm-hmm. So I like to back off the white balance just a touch, just a little bit. You still get that nice warm glow. You're still getting all that color, that vibrance, that saturation. I don't like what phone processing does to it. If I do that on a Pixel, the little slider bar for white balance is super handy, but it resets every single clip. Yeah. Whereas if I do that on a Vivo, I can say, stay here.
You have
just
more,
put it there.
The camera app is a much more, it was the one question I submitted to Google during the last Pixel event that we had, not this one. Mm-hmm. Can we or will we have a pro mode Like I want
Yeah.
more
We're never
granular
going to get
controls.
one
And I don't think
from Google.
this is the stick that they're going for. Um,
I
so
liked their answer. So, I mean, like,
Mhm.
because you asked that question, and I feel like we can kind of sort of cliff notes,
yeah,
sort of repeat what their answer was. And I liked their philosophy. And I think their philosophy works for the idea of a Google consumer. So basically, TK asks, like, there are these things that we would like to do, and as content creators, you're talking to people who make videos about your
hmm
products.
yeah,
Will there be a pro mode that we can maybe lock in some of this stuff? And their answer is, we don't want to add to the camera
more,
app or
yeah.
make the camera app more complicated to use, but we do like to know why people want pro modes. And so if the answer is something like, hey, I want to get a long exposure and set it up on a tripod, well, now we've got a motion mode.
I was
Hey,
gonna
I'm
say, yeah,
really interested in trying to take pretty pictures of the stars. There's some astrophotography stuff built in. So
it's
they are
built in.
trying to address individual use cases, but for me, and especially because of the way I've just been raised, from shooting film back in
hmm
high school, there are just times I want to go lock these settings. And as soon as I focus on a pixel, I don't keep my settings. I've got to refigure them. And that's
For
on
every
three
single
sliders. And if I'm trying to work fast, I'm definitely not going to have footage that lines up from clip to clip to clip as easily as I can on other products. And so now we just got an update. There was just another tiny little minor update for Filmic. I need
hmm
to run the Pixel 6 a little harder to see if that helps.
hmm
Because if I can move over to Filmic for some of this, it makes the Pixel 6 a much more viable pocket production camera. In the meantime, I've got that immediately out of the box
Speaking of which, I
on a
forgot to download
Vivo.
Filmic. Sorry.
No, I'm serious. I mean, so Filmic has improved support for all of these various Android film cameras, all these Android smartphone cameras phenomenally. But every now and then, like on the Pixel 6, like you would change some of the frame rates, and it would still kind of lock up. You have
hmm
to completely dump out of the app. You've got to get back into it. You got to restart it. If the Google camera app's running in the background, that can cause instability. Whereas I pull a Vivo out of my pocket, and I've got the same main camera sensor, and I've got a ridiculously well-featured manual video mode that I can get in there and accomplish everything that I need. So
Filmic all the way, and I don't think I can ever get this.
your
Is it good?
autofocus is just not jamming right
It
now,
is
man.
no, like it does perfectly fine
It
here.
gets
Like this
gets
is the
you
weird thing.
great.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I do anything else? Like, is it gonna catch me through? No, it's not.
Nope.
Not gonna happen.
Well, and
Okay, so
also
on that note,
you've got to go into Filmic and lock the orientation. That's one of the things that pisses me off about Filmic. You'll go and you'll adjust your settings, and you'll turn the phone, and when you turn it back, it'll reset all of your settings. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but it's a real bad idea. Anyway,
yeah, yeah.
for everything else, I've got that vibe where I want to pick up the Pixel 6 first. The calling features are phenomenal.
hmm
I've kind of fallen in love with voice replies in text messaging, where you click on the little microphone and then you can just kind of speak out your reply. Every phone does that, but it's just that little prompt at the end where after you're done speaking, it'll then say clear or send, and then you just say send, and off that message goes as a reply. It
Yep.
feels very much like old LG Tone headsets where you would click a button, speak your reply, it would read it back to you, and then you could just send it off. You would never have to like interact with the phone again once you
hmm
started the process of voice replies. There's so many little things like that that really have made the Pixel 6 a joy.
Yep.
Although I'm probably gonna have to play with like dual wielding until I've got a solution for some of the, again, I'm speaking very specifically about my needs, but some of
hmm
those camera issues, camera situations, because otherwise the phone is baller.
Yeah.
It has been tough because I've been bouncing back and forth. There's so much I appreciate about the Xperia, and we'll be talking about that. There's so much I love about the multitasking on the Duo,
hmm
and I'm still kind of in and out of the Vivo. So those four on my desk right now, it's just whiplash because
Cat,
I'm
cat,
constantly like going back and forth.
I was gonna say Captain Four Phones at this point, like three phones and a
I
and a
believe I
tablet
have been promoted to like
to lieutenant to general or
colonel, colonel
colonel
four phones.
colonel 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 Four
No,
Phones.
captain. I don't have two bars. I've got
No,
four phones. Arrgh.
I see how you're doing it. Okay, I'll say okay, Colonel. We got it. We got it. I will say this. Just to answer Greg's question. Unfortunately, no. Still no HDMI out on the Pixel line of devices.
Nope. It
Not
is
not.
not a compute device in the way that
Yeah.
Samsung and LG tried to turn their phones. The Microsoft feels so much like a baby Surface now, like a Surface
I,
tablet,
so
and it's
yeah.
rocking my socks. It doesn't feel like a phone. It really doesn't. If you want the bestest phone, it's an easy like walk away from the Duo 2. Like I don't have any problems telling you that, but if you would like to turn an iPad mini into your primary mobile
Communication
phone
device.
calling companion, this thing is going to rock your socks so
I,
hard.
I, so I,
It's
I'll be
so
honest.
good.
I got a chance to check it out today at the Best Buy just because I was going in there trying to hunt for a Pixel 6 Pro 256, and I don't trust the online store,
You
stock availability.
nerd, I love it.
No, I seriously like I really. So I was
No,
telling
this
this
is what you
to
got to do
Vaughn.
to live it though. I
Well, no,
totally
yeah,
get
that's
it.
what it
Yeah.
is. I so want to get out of the S21 Ultra. I don't want to use that anymore. I'm done. I found everything. It answered all the questions that I need for it. From what I needed the S21 Ultra to do, and it is just so much better. The storage is by far the only thing because I've imported my
Yeah.
accounts, I've imported most of my apps, but I cannot run with the consistent feel of the I have to unload images, I have to take those off every time because I am going
Yeah.
to hit it again, and it's a matter of time.
And I don't
The
want
two,
to play the cloud game. I mean, even with
no,
my
no,
OneDrive storage and everything else. I mean, I upload directly to my NAS, and I still
mhm.
don't want to have to mess with that,
Yeah, yeah,
especially because it always seems to happen like when I'm wanting to get a moment that's happening right now
hmm
is when I'm getting real close to running out of my storage, and I don't want to sit there panicked, like, oh, I've got to clear things out now
no, no, and that's
because
it's
I know I'm going
exactly
to
what I
clear out
want.
something that I don't want to clear out.
Absolutely. And with the S21 Ultra, actually, I'm down to about maybe 20 gigs on the 256. I take a lot of photos. I take a lot of pictures, but I
Yeah.
typically also don't delete. Like when I'm shooting for videos and so on, a lot of that B-roll clips that you see, those are the things that sit on the device. I don't delete them when I copy them over because
Yeah.
I always worry that if I lose something gets corrupted on the drive, I don't have my second, the backup of the data. So the same thing with the camera. When I'm shooting the camera, I'm always dual SD carding it in case something happens because I've been bit by that where I've gone and I started working on something and it's like it crashes and I just
Hmm.
lose data. So when we start talking about the Sony, that's where I want to kind of change the a little bit of conversation because so I don't have access to a phone that has similar experiences to the Vivo for me at least. Right now, it's Sony and Pixel, and for me, Sony just took it to the next level. Like seriously took it to the next level. That
Dual Sony,
the
sorry.
Vivo or like Viva la Vivo kind of a thing. I feel like we want to start saying, you kept the stickers on. I took them off. I'm like, no, baby, I'm gonna share the baby.
So I kept the stickers on during the embargo
Yeah,
because
you didn't want
I
somebody to.
mean, getting pre-release access, these are not retail
Oh no
at
no,
all.
prototype at best.
Prototypes. And so
uh,
I really did feel like this one was critical. We've got mules,
yeah.
just like you would be driving around in like a test or a prototype car. I don't want anything to potentially mess this up because
It'll be,
we're like one of 15 people in the world
dude, it would have been a
that
picture.
got some
You
hands-on
your
with
picture
these.
with the phone would have been plastered everywhere. Some audio guys, some
Like
gadget
I was
guys
dumb
know.
enough to put my TickWatch box up on the shelf
I remember
behind
that
me.
one. Oh
I was
man,
so like I was
during the
like clean
podcast on
room.
Monday when you walked off frame and your camera started going crazy, I was sitting here thinking, please
It's
don't
right
have the
there.
phone sitting in the yeah. Uh, sorry, like hashtag some accidental box in the background. No, no,
So
seriously.
real quick before
Yeah,
we cover before we
before
cover
we
because
jump
I don't,
experience.
we did talk about Duo just a little bit, but Aditya
Yeah,
has
yeah,
a
yeah.
question. The Duo 1 was more of a companion device to a regular phone. Do you think the Duo 2 has a higher chance of being the daily driver, the sole daily driver for folks? Um, my recommendation for Duo 2 is still very narrow band, but it's
Hmm.
even more positive for those folks who might want to try this idea of a mini folding tablet as
Hmm.
their compute communication device.
Okay.
I literally, I'm going to say this in the video I put out tomorrow on the Duo 2. There is someone out there who rocks an iPad and they FaceTime from it and they hook up good audio, like good Bluetooth headphones to it, and they regularly either use apps that have panels or they'll set up app pairs so they can
Hmm.
launch two apps side by side. And that if it weren't for the size, that would be the device they reach for as their mobile communications companion.
Hmm.
Someone who lives at that speed, that is a very narrow band of consumers. That is
Very
not
specific. Very
a
yeah.
broad demographic. That is not average consumers who choke on their tongue while they try to breathe through their nose. This is a very specific idea of a mobile compute device. Someone who kind of digs that idea or has ever played with tablets or has ever wanted to go mixed mode, multi-mode,
Hmm.
desktop mode, modular, they are going to dig Duo 2 so hard. Because it is I think one of the most beautiful executions of that idea as it pertains to multitasking. It genuinely is constructed in a way that encourages you to immediately put apps side by side.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
does
of
not
course.
try to open apps in one window and then force you to split screen. It is do more right from the get go. The hardware is built all around that idea.
Two full experiences running side by side,
For that
natively.
individual, I think, with the exception of exactly one hardware form factor, which is wrapping the display all the way to the back, where
Hmm.
you really shouldn't put this in your pocket like this. I feel like this is a brilliant execution of that idea, wonderfully refined over the Duo 1. And the
Hmm.
person who's in for that ride is going to absolutely love just taking this and going. It is now a better phone. It is now a more powerful phone. It's one of
Awesome.
the most powerful devices of the year. And
Hmm.
it's got excellent productivity features like stylus support. Like I'm just kind of messing with it right now. Hold on. I don't know if I'll be able to get that on camera very well, but just I
That's
took I
actually
took a
pretty
photo
decent.
of the Excelsior and I'm doing
Hmm.
a little scribble sketch of that Excelsior toy model, and I did this all on the Duo with the Slim Pen too, and it's immediate and it's easy and you can reference and you can pull and like this is exactly the kind of thing I love about dual display and how that's a little bit different than a single folding screen.
Yeah. No. No.
Duo 2 makes a better argument as a phone. It is
Mhm.
still not the best phone of the year, but it is easily one of the best tablets of the year. And it's a reasonable phone on top of that, if that makes
I
sense.
I'm glad that I'm glad that Microsoft decided to go back and actually do a second version of it and update the internals and bring us a better experience than what we saw before. What I wanted to double check with you is when we first got access to the first Duo, software was an issue. Software was a big concern.
Yeah.
Duo 2 out of the box after obviously the massive update that forces you to install it before you can even use it,
Yeah.
which I like the fact, by the way. I don't mind that. I don't mind it because I think at least it saves you from having problems or dealing with anything that could have been
Yeah.
fixed with the
So I
update.
love I love like embargo reviews because you literally cannot use the Duo in that state.
Yeah,
As
it,
soon as
it's
you try to
it's
set it up, it shuts you down and says, "Oh, by the way, there's a software update, so sit down. This is going to take a while."
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it does. They got to run two updates
Well,
now.
most Android
It's
devices do
hilarious.
the same thing, but almost none of them ever have an update to show because it's checking the updates. But most of them
Right.
are like Samsung devices, LG devices, whatever, and they don't actually check the software updates through Google services. It's done separately. So, short answer, it's a very nice process. How was the experience with the software compared to Duo One? I would say growing paint version of the software at day one.
Oh, so I mean, like, there are definitely some areas of polish that I still think Microsoft needs to address. There are
Hmm.
still some things that I think the Duo is too clever for its own good.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
really bothers me that there's no manual single screen mode. So if you want to go single screen, you open the Duo
All the
all the
way.
way until one screen turns off.
Okay,
But
so same like the first one.
when you use the camera, you hold the Duo out and the camera turns on, and then when you take pictures, the bottom display shows you an image that you just
Your
captured.
gallery. Yeah, the reel, basically, the camera
But
reel.
what I would want to do is use this entire bottom panel as a
Hmm.
handle, but I kind of can't because I'm touching things on the display
Okay.
and I'm interacting with things on that second screen. And when I'm shooting video and I'm focusing on what I'm trying to compose, I don't need another display showing me things underneath. So if I try to open the Duo out to turn off the screen, it immediately flips me to the selfie camera and I can't switch back.
Okay. Yeah, that is a little
So
bit
I can't go
yeah,
single
they're
screen and just use it like this because like even like this would be silly and awkward, but I could
mhm,
use this as like a handle, tuck
mhm.
my elbows right up on my ribs just like I always
Or
recommend,
even just
and
as
I would
a to
have
prop it up to record you. Like you can actually use this as
but
a
I
tripod.
would have a more stable base to work from.
Of course.
Microsoft won't give me an option where I can turn off one screen and leave the primary camera side screen
Hmm.
activated. And that to me, it's like, that's a little bit of engineering arrogance. You think you know better than me. I have immediately addressed a
Yeah.
usage scenario that your software does not do well. And I'm almost positive Microsoft will never give me the
If
exact setting that I just described.
yeah, and this is something that you wouldn't have faced with the first Duo because it didn't have any back-facing
Yeah,
cameras. It was
because
all
there
selfies.
was only
Yeah, it
the
was only
one
one camera.
terrible
You were
selfie
only in
camera.
that front-facing. No, no, I'm with you. I think that's definitely something that they should focus on as far as fixing because totally use case. Obviously, anytime like when we were using the V60, when I first started using the V60 with the dual case during our little pre-briefing
Yeah.
meeting with the PR, that was the first thing I did. I propped it open like this. I put the phone on the side, used the second display with the weight of the second display as the anchor, and then propped up the
Hmm.
4K 60 to use the main sensors. So
So
hope
you can do
yeah,
that on Duo, but both screens are on. So if you
yeah,
open it up clamshell, so here it is. You open it up and you can go flex and you can go front camera or back camera, but both
but you still
displays
have
stay
yeah,
on.
yeah.
So what I want to do is get to this angle and then turn off this bottom
use
display so that
use it like a gimbal, kind of like the bottom being the handle and the camera being at the top. Because
exactly.
you have I think we have OIS on two of the sensors, right? The
Yes,
ultra
on
wide and the
no,
main
no,
and
on
the ultra wide.
the main sensor and the telephoto.
Oh, and the tele. Okay.
Yeah,
So
the ultra wide is not.
it's
I don't believe
optically
there's any OIS
no,
on
no.
the
I
ultra
know there
wide
was.
there.
I remember I was when I was reading this. I remember there was two sensors. I know the main, but I don't know why I thought it was the ultra wide. But it makes sense. The telephoto would need more stabilization, especially when you're zooming in. Speaking of
Hmm.
telephoto, the
Yeah.
that little demo that you showed on Monday, the one with the Pixel 6 Pro, when you jump from the two digital crop to the 4x camera on the
Hmm.
Pixel 6 Pro, that was like try doing that in video. That will look. That was a little
It
bit. I feel
looks
like
real good.
it does a jank because it's not even
Yeah.
angled in the same.
It's
It's not at the same. It's not pointing in the same
no.
direction. So like when you jump from two to four, the focus changes, and you're like, wait,
Yeah,
I
it's a
gotta
total
readjust.
pop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was like,
I
I'm
don't
like,
know that there's any way to animate that cleanly. I think it's always going to be jank.
yeah. So it's almost
Yeah.
like you should know that you're going to be editing that video later, and you're removing there and doing a transition, a fade,
Which
a
also it
crossfade.
kind of makes sense. So I'm not trying to speak ill of people who put in a lot of work, they put in a lot of effort, but I really feel side by side camera comparisons do
Hmm.
a terrible job of showing what both cameras can do. So like say you're trying to do two cameras side
Hmm.
by side, the differences in focal equivalent focal length in angles, you're always going to be composing for one and
Yeah,
then
and
just pushing the
adjusting.
shutter on the other, and
Yeah,
you're not really matching. I mean, have you ever seen like those camera comparisons and like one phone is like, "Hey, I'm talking to the people like this," and then the other phone is like, "I'm talking directly to the camera." That is an obvious bias for one phone to get that footage looking better
yeah.
than the other phone. And it's funny because on the Pixel 6, when you pop from the main camera to the telephoto, that's almost the distance that you would have from two phones sitting side by side.
it's a substantial enough distance that the
The
way it hit
camera
me,
cannot account for it.
it's even worse when you're at further when you're shooting things that are a further distance from you. Like not that you're trying to
Yeah,
jump into. Let's say you're trying to take a picture of the bee or something like that. When I was at the gardens, there was like a lot of little flowers, obviously, so
sure.
there's going to be bees around. But like in video, I was shooting and I was trying to basically do one x, 2x, 4x, and then from 2 to 4, it would be more of like where the camera was there, and then 4 kind of boot like what? I'm like okay, bring it back up, like, readjust.
Yeah, I
But
mean, if you
but
think
you
about it, from two times crop to four times
four,
zoom,
it is a shift. It is a
that is a substantial difference for these
and
little
they're
sensors.
both massive sensors. It's not like you're talking about the 12 megapixel. You're jumping between from a 50 to a 48, and the 50 was already at 2 times digital crop. So he's the overall experience for me. Like I said, just yeah, it throws you off the first time. If you're shooting with the telephoto, I would probably say shoot the whole clip with it. Don't jump between them till they hopefully fix it. But it's definitely flexible, and I like the fact that we have that in there. The 4X
Yeah,
actually came pretty handy with Omar, and when he's swimming and doing different
yeah,
competitions, I'm
and
able to
that's
get that
another
little
thing,
closeness. Yeah.
and especially what you're saying right there, because I feel like we are taking a step back to the Pixel 4 XL. The ultra wide is fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fine ultra wide camera. It gets the job done. It feels like more attention has been paid to the telephoto
Oh
being
yeah.
a pixel binning sensor. I believe it's a half-inch sensor. I don't think it's one of the larger like 1/1.7s,
No, I don't.
but
Yeah.
it's a more capable piece of hardware. So I've done some of my late night test shots.
Mm-hmm.
The telephoto is brightened almost to the degree of it looking like matching the footage from the main sensor.
Oh wow.
So whatever HDR tricks they're doing for processing, because we know Google's really good at that, like image stacking and stuff. It's not
Bringing
as
the
good,
sun when the sun wasn't even
but
there, but yeah.
but it can get pretty close to that GN1.
Mm-hmm.
And then you flip to the ultra wide, and oh man, it's not the same.
Well, no, no. I mean,
It's way less good.
it's a 12 megapixel sensor, and I feel like so Google always said with pixels at least that they felt like the telephoto was the more important lens than it is. And I remember the
Right,
whole
but I mean, like, so
conversation.
we look at like the Pixel 5a,
Hmm.
they don't have a telephoto on that. We look at the Pixel 6, they don't have a fancy telephoto on that. And I think that's kind of interesting where they've put some of their costs. I
Hmm.
can't say that makes up a $300 difference between a Pixel 6 and a Pixel
6 and
6
6 Pro.
Pro, but it is very clear that this is not like a OnePlus.
Yeah,
Because on a OnePlus 9 Pro, there is a telephoto sensor,
it's
but
a
it
yeah.
is a very inexpensive telephoto sensor. On
It
the
wasn't the
Vivo,
focus. Yeah.
even with a periscoping telephoto, the actual sensor is a really inexpensive sensor. And Google did not go cheap on their telephoto. So
Yep.
I feel like they kind of saved some cash on their ultra wide. And I think that helps the Pixel 6 price tag stay a little bit more reasonable.
I still think the 6 is the best, the better of the two when it comes to bang for the buck. I mean, realistically,
Oh, for sure.
don't get me wrong. The 899 starting price point for the Pro is great. It's like
It's very good.
reminiscent of where
Yeah.
OnePlus used to be. I'm like, I was surprised. I was truly surprised that
Hmm.
they hit 599 and 899 as their starting point. I mean, they went below Pixel. Sorry, they went below OnePlus. They went below Samsung. They went below like every other company that could have
They
been.
undercut
If
everybody.
LG was in the market, then they would have been maybe barely kind of throwing hands with LG there. But um, the 6 for me would be the one I recommend to anybody looking at getting into a
For
Pixel
sure.
device, especially with Tensor and Titan M2.
Yeah.
And we
I,
have
I,
some
I
really
need to hear
decent
from
colors as well.
someone that they actually will be bothered by telephoto performance and they don't want just cropping. And again, that's a very specific
The two time
kind
digital
of
crop is
desire in
actually
someone.
very good though. I mean,
It's
keep
great.
in mind it's
Yeah.
really good.
It's so good out to like 8 times. What is it? The
Mhm.
Pixel 6 lets you do 8 times zoom or 10 times zoom
I
now.
want to say 10. I want,
I I don't
You
know.
know, actually,
We weren't fancy enough YouTubers to get both phones.
no, we're
But
we're not
still,
press.
I would need to hear from someone like
Oh yeah, no,
they
here it goes
care
to five. Yeah.
more about getting a little extra reach, and then we can start talking about some of these other periscoping, dedicated telephoto sensors.
Shoot the
But
moon kind
anyway,
of conversation.
speaking
Yeah.
of different sensors and cameras and stuff, I
Oh,
want to move over to the Xperia, especially now, because Aditya Anil, I believe, has an Xperia 5. And so now he's
oh,
Team Sony.
congratulations, man. Hey, welcome to the club. Hold on, where?
Aditya, you've got the 5 Mark II, I believe. Someone,
Someone's
please
correct.
correct me in the chat.
Brassicos.
Please let me know.
Da, da,
Oh, John
da.
Brophy is saying Pixel 6 does 8 times zoom because that's like the Pixel 4. Pixel
Okay.
4 would only let you do, it wouldn't let you do a full 10 times zoom because it was all about preserving image fidelity.
Yeah, so it
So
it does basically 8 times, which I mean it's still
off
so
that
I would say
GN1, that's
I,
going to be a very good 8 times zoom.
2 is going to be almost unnoticeable. You probably won't even notice the difference
Out to
between the main
4,
up
and
to
this
4.
Pixel
Yeah,
is, you're only starting to see
it
some of
in
that
good lighting,
watercolor
you wouldn't even
splotching.
notice it.
You're going to be
But I'm
fine.
glad that they kept the GN1 for the 6 and the 6 Pro. The ultra wide, like you said, it's definitely a nice one. I typically don't shoot ultra wide unless I'm in a tight spot. Most of the time, it's more reaching. But I
Yeah.
like the flexibility between the two because when you jump into the ultra wide, you can also do some of those close up shots, which is a little bit different
Yeah.
than what you want to do with the other. So it's the flexibility of the triple cameras. I'm glad to see that Pixel now carries all three. It's not just one. Like it's not just two
Hmm.
sensors. Um, to kind of round it up, I'm with you. I'm in the same boat. I am going to be wrapping up and trying to put together, like basically a week, a week in review, not a review, a week in the life kind of a thing.
Yeah.
With the Pixel 6 Pro, I'm very happy. I'm very stoked with all of the things that they've done. I the benchmarks have not been much for me. So one thing I wanted to let you know, I know on Monday you mentioned Dead Cells wasn't working for you. Was that did you say Dead Cells wasn't or
So there was a minor update, which was just a language pack,
uh-huh.
but whatever it did to update, it's working now.
Okay, because when I
So I
was
can
when
play
I was
Dead
doing my
Cells now.
yeah, so on mine when I was okay, one for me Dead Cells played perfectly at 120, and I
You
was recording all
jerk.
my yeah, no, I wanted to tell you in the comments, but I must have either got the update or something because all of my stuff was like I added Dead Cells at the end. I was focusing more on Call of Duty, PUBG, racing, Need for Speed, and all of those, and then I was trying to also kind of think about like okay, well, not everybody plays these type of games. Well, what about
Yeah.
like Dragon Ball, and what about Dead Cells? And Dead Cells is one of my favorites as well. So I downloaded it again. It comes with the Google Pass, the Game Pass now, so I don't
Yeah.
even have to buy the game. So it was really easy. Jump back in, started, and dude, the touch controls, everything works great. So, anyways,
Yeah,
we'll be
I'm
putting that out
finally
with my
back on
next
the
couple
Dead
of days.
Cells, but Dead Cells was crashing when I made the video, and now
Oh,
I can't
Thumper
go
for
back and
me,
like
yeah.
fix the
Thumper with me
video.
was like a
So
crash, like not even a. It won't even start. Like
you
it
know what
barely
game?
boots up.
I mean, we keep saying we're going to switch over to the Sony. You know
Yeah.
what game actually really surprised me on Tensor was Undead Horde. So
Oh, I didn't get a chance
Undead
to play that one
Horde
yet. Yeah.
makes the S21 and the Xiaomi Mi 11 just choke.
While you're saying that, I'm
Like
gonna download it
the
again.
the
Yep.
those phones let the GPUs get so hot that it just ganks the frame rate once you start getting more minion on screen. And Tensor doesn't lead, like it doesn't outperform, say like a OnePlus 9,
Mm-hmm.
but it maintains a phenomenally high frame rate. Like it's low 50s even when you've got tons and tons and tons of units on screen,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't run as hot.
That's nice.
So
Yeah.
after like 20 minutes of playing Undead Horde, a OnePlus 9 is still cranking. It's still doing great, but
I
it
think
is
it did.
starting to get a little uncomfortable to hold.
Mm-hmm.
The Pixel 6, I'm losing maybe 10% of the frame rate, but
But you're
it's
still
not
cool.
running nearly as hot to get there. So again, I really feel like what Google has given us is a starter platform. I'm hoping we'll see the optimization and the improvements that we saw on the Pixel 5,
Mm-hmm.
because they found a ton more horsepower on the Pixel 5 and the Pixel 4 over a year of updates. Like those phones got
Better.
noticeably faster
Mm-hmm.
over their first year, and the Pixel 4 even over its second year of life. And I'm hoping that that's what we're going to see with Pixel 6, that what they've got out now with Tensor is great, but this is just the brute force of Tensor, and there's still additional optimization to come, because that could
Like
be
and
really exciting.
as like, and I think that's what you said at the beginning. The understanding or the appreciation of what Tensor is able to do
Sorry,
is
I
not
just saw
limited by.
David, but
I
the
know.
Geekbench score.
I was trying to lead into it.
You
Uh,
nerd, I love it.
No, I love it. I love it. And then he jumps back in. Tensor's like a fine wine. It just gets better with age.
All right,
It
Tensor's
is.
great. You know, we
Tensor's
got to
great.
talk about the Sony.
Okay, let's
We've
do
been
a
going
shift.
for 50 minutes here.
50 minutes
We've got Sony to
of
talk
love.
about.
So the big surprise, obviously, Monday night, which was apparently leaked earlier in the day. Yeah, and Matt Tyler and I were talking the whole time, and he's like, it's the Pro," and I'm like, I can't confirm, I can't confirm, I can't confirm, I can't say it is. I love the fact that we got that whole tablet rumor kind of going on. I was hoping Sony would listen. They're like, wait, we're
Did
making a
you
tablet?
did you see there was some crazy Asian tech blog that showed up in my Google News feed,
Hmm.
and they were talking up, hey, one of the big hot rumors is a Sony tablet. And I like,
I was like, did we
I
start something?
wonder if someone was watching us
That
during
would be
our
funny if we started
show.
a rumor. Like we can have our own rumor mill. We could just start up stuff. That would be funny. That would be funny. They watched us like,
Because
dude, tech.
no one else had been
Else I
talking of
don't-
Sony tablet. It was us just like nerding out on that idea.
I know. John is jumping in. Hooray for Sony. Hooray, it's Sony
Yeah,
time.
Sony time, definitely.
Greg. Oh, sorry, I missed it. Here you go, John. Thank you, man. Um, so the devices that, again, and as Juan was mentioning, the devices that we have are definitely early prototypes. They're not final retail.
These are mules.
The software experiences are also
Incomplete.
not all there too. I think not everything is the way it's supposed to be. I put out a couple of videos on it, but Monday night was the big push for
Yeah.
sharing with the world how this device, actually the fact that it exists. Let's just say that. It's the device itself. It's technically not supposed to be a replacement for an existing device.
No.
It's not supposed to replace the Pro the way I understood it. It's a wedge between the Xperia 1 Mark III and then the Xperia Pro, where
I wouldn't
this.
even call it a wedge. I really feel like what I hope Sony will do is keep the old Pro as
Oh,
a Pro B, because that
yeah.
phone is built around a completely different idea of broadcast
It is, yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
use.
There's a
And this is
very
all about
specific use case.
optics and
Yeah.
imaging. Yeah.
Well, this is about also. So the reason why I mentioned the wedge conversation. This is how they described it to me when I was going through my stuff. I asked them. I
Hmm.
said, what is this supposed to be? Is this the sequel to the Pro, or is it a sequel to the Xperia 1 Mark III?
Hmm.
And the way they explained it to me is that it's not a sequel. It's leveraging some of the main benefits of both, but
Hmm.
the purpose of it is to be a very pro content creation, but not necessarily a broadcaster. So the
Yeah.
pro focus in here is on the content creation. I did not get a chance to see. So I was watching the live event, of course, as I was editing my video. I'm like watching the content. I'm like, I'm finishing the video. Keep talking. Keep talking. They showed the display, that little tiny 2-inch display, that the accessory that they're gonna sell.
Hmm.
And dude, I have never been more excited about an accessory to a phone as much as I've been excited about this, because I have the
Yeah.
grip. So I activated my ZV-1 grip with the Sony, and I have to say it's nice to see a phone function. Yeah, exactly. Oh, so they sent you one. Okay, I'm glad. Or
Hmm.
is this yours or?
No,
Oh,
they
they.
sent me one as to
Yeah.
demo with the
So they asked me
Xperia.
during my thing, and I was like, I already have my own. I have a ZV, the E10 tier, so I don't really need
I
one.
don't need your grip, thank you.
No, no.
I
I
have
told them, I
one.
said, send the grip
Thanks.
to somebody else that may need it. But do you have any of those displays? And of course, at the
Take
time, they're
take
like,
pity on Juan. I'm pretty sure he's still on that Panasonic train.
well, we got to talk about the Panasonic train, man. You know how many times? I mean, I think if Sony can give you clues, like enough nudge, nudge, dude.
Wink,
Sorry,
wink.
wrong side. Wink, wink.
Elbow,
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 elbow.
elbow.
Kind of push you in one direction at one point. Like every time they've sent you from. Remember, the the A7 III, the A7R, no, the A7S3 is the one they sent you with the Pro. Every other
Hmm.
time they've sent you, like they're really giving you hints.
Yeah, I
I,
need
I
to
was
probably
happy
jump
about
on
that.
that.
The multitasking functionality when it comes to producing content, headphone
Hmm.
jack, charging cable, the display is supposed to provide us an extra input for audio, which still leaves our headphone jack usable. So
Yeah.
that was things that we couldn't demo. So they're really, oh my god, like every time, like when I saw this, and I'll be honest with everybody, guys, seriously, I went full on fangirl, fanboy, whatever you want to call it, excitement level when I saw this
Yeah.
because
TK went in deep.
it was like they came out of left field. I was expecting a very different conversation, and they're like, but
They said
let
at
and
the phone
there's
call too, and you're like, "Oh, well, yeah. I mean, you sure you're going to announce finally North American availability for Xperia 5 Mark III?"
that's what
And
I
we
started
get
my
this like
conversation.
teaser email back from our Sony PR up going, "No,
No, it's
it's
not.
not going to be that. I think you really want to check out this pre-brief that we're going to do." And you're like,
Yeah,
"Okay, well, I suppose you have piqued my curiosity."
that's true. No, it was. I was very excited. Like I said. So long story short, when I got my hands on it, um, I was very happy with the functional extra button key that they added in there. We have the same tactile, functional, half press, full press, camera experience. It's really built around a
The
camera.
shutter button's even better.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
it always kind of bugged me. Like I remember when I think it was Mark II came out, and there were a
It's
bunch of
like you get like,
YouTubers.
yeah, all
I
the
mean, it's
extra
just so
buttons.
clean, and especially keeping everything on one side. But we had a bunch of YouTubers saying like, "Oh, well, this button's really mushy,"
Mm,
and you're missing the point. You don't want a hard, clicky shutter button on a little mobile phone that's very easy to kind of
to
shake your shot out.
a hard shot. Yeah, exactly. It moves your finger. It moves
Or
the phone
especially
actually.
like when I'm on a Pixel and I'm trying to get that rear camera selfie because I never take photos of myself with the garbage front camera. Uh, Hitting the volume rocker, I've got to be very careful how I kind of ease into that trigger action so that I'm not jostling the phone. It's a little bit more precious on a Sony because Sony doesn't do a lot of the post processing, image manipulation, sharpening, contrast.
Hmm.
It will let you. I almost like just dropped a hard f bomb there. It will let you screw up your photo if you try to.
Yep.
There is no safety net. It is not gonna try and hold your hand. It's not even in auto mode. It is very conservative in how it's going to process your image data, and even so, even for making the shutter button larger, they've actually made the action softer,
Hmm.
and so there is no much less of a definite click. I mean, I just turned on the camera because I was trying to find where that action was, where the
Actually,
actual
yeah.
button it was. It is so much softer when I'm taking. So I've done some of those like the walking samples,
Hmm.
and I start, and kind of just pull it in, and I start it by holding it and hitting it with my pinky so that I can frame where I know I need to put the camera lens, and it is so soft. I mean, I want you to try. I mean, try this at home right now. Pick up your phone and turn on the camera and try and pinky finger activate the shutter. And it's not easy. I mean, you're gonna like it's gonna be hard to hold. It's gonna be hard to kind of
I love
frame that
seeing
shot.
the focus points.
And
Yeah.
and on a Sony, it is so easy. So I mean, you can do the rear camera from like a finger, from like a, from your pointer finger, but it doesn't give
Hmm.
you a lot of phone to hold on to, versus moving the whole thing into your grip, going pinky finger, and this shutter button is so soft.
Absolutely. Yeah, you
And I
can see it
mean,
right
like
there. Yeah,
right
very.
there.
Mhm. You didn't even click it the
I
whole way.
mean, like it just found my eyeball. And that's another thing too, is like I love all the people like, "Oh, who has time to edit all of the manual modes to take a photo? I just need a good GUD picture, PITCHER. I can't mess with." So what did you shoot all your B-roll on? Oh, like a Sony A7S III. Okay, but you're
Yeah, that makes sense.
real confuzzled about how this works in full auto.
It is.
Good, good story, bro. That's great.
No, no. It's a very it's very interesting how people go into a conversation with a preconceived notion and they build the conversation around it. But
Yeah.
the reality is we now have a third camera app also. That was another thing that Sony
Hmm.
added in there. The camera that we have, basically there's the basic mode in Camera Pro, which kind of functions as your default camera app. It
Sure.
automatically
You
launches,
never want to use basic mode.
and it's I yeah I
Not on a
actually
phone like that. You're going to spend
I,
$1,800 on a phone. I'm going to say it now. You don't ever want to use basic.
so here's okay. There would be one
TK,
thing
don't
that if
even
I
try
have a
and
problem,
defend him.
I'm not
It's
trying.
indefensible. Anyone
I
who
want them
does
to give
that
me
is
the
objectively
option.
living their life wrong.
No, don't get me wrong.
I'm
But I
going to
want
do
them to give us the
CNN style
option.
talking heads. We're just going to keep yelling at each other.
I think you think I'm going
It's
in one
wrong,
direction. I'm going in
TK. It's
I'm going
bad.
I'm going in a different direction. Hold your horses, buddy. Hold your horses. What I'm trying to say is I want them to give me the option to, when I launch the camera, to have it jump straight into manual. It keeps defaulting me to basic. Every
No, no,
time
no.
I
No,
launch
no, no,
it,
no. Go into the app settings, and there is a setting to remember last setting used.
okay, so but you do that in the basic mode, don't you? Isn't that in the setting in the basic mode?
No, 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 no. It's
I
in
actually know it is. Yeah.
Photography Pro.
No, I
So
know,
like
but
here,
it's in the.
I'm in auto mode, and I'm gonna switch to
Oh, so
program
yeah,
mode.
always be, yeah. No, here it is. Last use mode. You're right. You're right.
And
I
so
I was in
let me
so
kill the camera app, and now I'm gonna launch the camera again, and it's gonna take me right into program mode.
no. I'm with you. I remember the setting, but I couldn't figure out where it was. I just that was my
I'm
only
just
thing. And
saying,
as I was shooting
TK,
everything, I didn't play enough.
basic mode is always doing it wrong.
Oh, it's totally basic. The basic is too
No one
basic.
should ever use basic mode on an $1,800 phone.
I I think what they
Anyone
tried
who
to
does that
do.
should feel bad about themselves, and I need them to know that.
Smash that like button right now. Smash it as soft as you're able to smash that focus button that we have on
Hulk smash that like
oh,
button.
mic button. No, I mean, so the main thing about it, when I went to the Descanso Garden. Full disclosure, I went there with both phones. So if you watch both my videos in the morning and the evening, you're like, there's a lot of the same pictures, TK. What? It was because that's how I was literally rocking two phones for
Yeah.
that week, and I that was where I wanted to kind of shoot all of that. Um, the natural bokeh effect that comes in from the sensor, the main sensor for me,
It's good.
has it looks really nice. That natural drop. Like I was doing a run and walk and talk kind of thing, similar to what you were talking about, and I had some people behind me, and they were all like blurred out, like very comfortably, and you could see the quality. It's actually lens. It's not software rendered. So this is the
Yeah.
big difference when you're using where Sony leverages their focus on hardware first before post processing.
You know
So there's not
what
a
I
lot of
like.
lifting.
So we've been bouncing back and forth between Pixel 6 and Vivo X70 and Xperia
I
and
like this one. Swan Diego is a full
oh,
1 inch
it's a
sensor.
full 1 inch sensor size right now. In that I am roughly 2/3 the size of my claimed size. Is that what we're saying? Um,
That's it.
sorry, that's a terrible joke. You'd have to watch like one of the worst performing videos on my channel right now. The thing I actually really like about the Xperia One, if we're breaking down the math, because it's another thing, it's kind of the elephant in the room. I kind of wish Sony weren't leaning so hard on 1 inch sensor in their marketing, because they do have the sensor in the phone, but they're
But it's
effectively only using a 4:3 aspect ratio center crop
hmm
of that sensor. They're not using the full 1 inch. And if we do the math on the pixel size, the resolution, the aspect ratio, we arrive at a size that's pretty
still
similar to GN1 in the Vivo and in the Pixel 6. But when you're talking about things like depth of field, technically the Sony does work at a slight disadvantage at its most wide open because it's
hmm
shooting f2. And we also know like a Vivo can shoot f1.6,
f4
which
point yeah,
is
and I've seen f4
a
points.
stupid shallow aperture for this size sensor because you can't control it. So even though the Sony shooting f2, as long as you've got some distance between your subject and the background, you still end up with a beautiful bokeh.
Yeah,
I feel the Sony actually does a better job for most of the situations that you would want to shoot just
Hmm.
because you can keep a tiny bit more of your subject in focus. And then the distance and the depth of field blur kind of fall off in a very similar way to what we would see on the Vivo.
Yeah.
And then if you need to, you can stop down to f4, and then everything is just razor sharp for a phone with this size sensor.
Hmm.
It's really it's such a nuanced conversation about sensor dynamics, different types of pixels. The Vivo and the GN1, the Pixel 6, those are pixel binning sensors. You
Yeah.
arrive at a 4:1
12,
pixel
12.
bin
Yeah, like it's basically an
versus
effective 12 megapixel images.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, like any of these, you see like 50 megapixels, 108 megapixels, 200 megapixels. No. You're eventually gonna kind of end up at a 12 megapixel output, regardless. So I kind of like what Sony is doing is they're focusing on it's just a 12 megapixel shooter, but instead of playing these HDR image processing pixel binning games, so much of their AI has gone into subject detection,
Hmm.
eyeball tracking for
Oh,
autofocus, and
razor sharp
it's
eyeball detection. Oh
scary
my God.
fast.
And
It's
and
like
it
Skynet spooky fast
it
image
it can match
focus
up with my
acquisition.
cats. This is yeah, no. It matches up with my cats, which is the best part for me ever because they never stand still. You can never find a cat. I mean, with the exception when they're asleep, and I've posted like a picture of them before. In the pictures that I posted on Instagram, my cat kept walking and the whole time, and I had the camera on. Sorry, and I had the camera like basically moving, and like literally its face, the eye, everything,
Yeah.
and it kept moving in there. So and then they're also trying to bring that into video. That's the other option that we're
Eye
hopefully going to be
tracking
able.
for
Eye
video
tracking for
and
video
subject
is
detection.
so like think of content creation. The fact that that is a camera sensor that's on a mobile phone, so that's going to be in your pocket if you're using it, and using the display that you're able to get on it, which is also a very small accessory with a small cable, you are suddenly now able to use this fully as one person production crew or be the camera person supporting somebody else, inputting audio from multiple sources, charging the phone, making sure your batteries are running. There's a lot of things going on. So I'm really very happy with what they have done. And I am going to go on mute for 1 second.
No worries. So Vasicos is asking, is the 21:9 video wider frame from the 4:3? And it's not. So the 21:9, so the
I am back.
21:9, the 16:9, and the 4:3 all occupy the same width of
Hmm.
frame. It's all vertical crop from the 4:3. But that's also what's exciting about Video Pro is it gives us a lot of the same functionality as Cinema Pro,
Hmm.
but for a 16:9 frame. So you get a
Well,
more traditional video look out of Video Pro,
hmm
but the main starter for Video Pro is way simpler than Cinema Pro.
and
But
and
if
I
you
and
want, you can go
yeah.
a menu deeper and get all of the same granular manual controls. It's buried in there. It's not as in your face. It makes it a little less intimidating.
Well,
But
it's
Video
supposed to be a
Pro,
pro. Yeah, it's supposed to be a pro version of a camera, but it without the project-based profile or workflow that you
right?
have in the
But
cinema section.
they definitely are trying to also take a look at a potential audience. Like I feel like they might be missing the mark on the original Xperia Pro because
Hmm.
they were trying to talk about like live streamers, and
Yeah.
like live streamers are not looking at a $2,500 phone to live stream to
No.
broadcast,
Yeah.
but television studios are flipping buying those
And they're
Xperias like
selling. Yeah,
crazy.
that's the crazy
They're
part. They're
selling a
selling
ton of
out.
those.
They're selling out of pros
They,
at
they
25 a
cannot
pop.
manufacture enough of them because they grossly underestimated the potential interest in the first
Well,
Xperia Pro at
the other thing though
$2,500.
is what 2020 did for us is put a massive focus on streaming and
Yeah,
broadcasting and content creation remotely. So there's been a lot of heavy focus on people remotely working, and you want to get them those pro level tools. And I feel
yeah,
like the pro, like you said, still fits that because it has the ultra wideband. It has the actual HDMI in as opposed to having to have
right. But
an
but
HDMI
rather
in
than
option.
like talk this out, so if I show
Yeah.
Video Pro and I just here's my big old fat mouth, Video Pro starts as a much simpler interface.
Hmm.
You've
Yeah.
got like big red record button and you can go full auto. I mean, that's not something you can do in Cinema Pro.
Hmm.
Cinema Pro makes you set your shot every single time. And Cinema Pro does not mess with a lot of aggressive image stabilization. Cinema Pro assumes you're going to shoot cinematically, which means gimbals or steady cams or tripods. So Cinema Pro handheld is going to look pretty rough. But if you go into Video Pro, you've got an immediate, accessible point and shoot video mode ready to set up, and then you can go a menu deeper and get all of those other granular controls for frame rate, for exposure, for shutter speed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing I really dig on Video Pro, though, it's something that we haven't seen since LG kind of toyed with it, especially like the V50 era, is this zoom slider. So as it's pulling that zoom, it is a very slow and even,
Yeah.
and kind of speed controlled. Like you can make it go faster or you can make it go slower as you zoom, but it is beautiful. Like the 4K footage, as you're obviously cropping, you know, it's not like there's an actual like telephoto lens in this that's zooming out. This is all pixel crop. I don't know how they're getting to the image fidelity that they're getting by the time you get to the full zoom in video, because it looks phenomenal, and the
It's actually
effect
very good.
is almost cinema smooth. So it's not like you would zoom and then that would be your cut point and you would slam those two clips together. The transition is a part of your footage. As so you do your object tracking, you tap on the screen to focus, a little box pops up with these two like side lines on it.
Like
It'll follow the
outlines, yeah.
subject, and then you slowly ease into that zoom and it looks like you're pulling the focus on a lens. It's so buttery. And it's those little touches that you're like, push record, hit the zoom, fancy looking video, 4K done. And you're like, that's incredible.
It is.
That's the stuff that I get exciting about. That's why I'm a little angsty about how much marketing is going into 1-inch sensor, when I feel like that kind of misses the point out of all of the wonderful things that Sony has done to address concerns, because that's way easier to use than Cinema Pro if you're used to shooting on iPhones or Samsungs.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then also,
It's exactly, that's where the audience is for. Yeah.
and also, I think it gets in the way of the conversation about the mechanical aperture, because you can take an image sensor the size of the GN1. Actually, I mean, I think it's like a micron bigger, but whatever. You can take a sensor the size of the GN1 and put a 2-stage aperture on top of that. Is an incredible engineering accomplishment. And those are the things that I want people to be excited about. 1-inch sensor is going to end up being one of those lazy marketing bullet points that doesn't really describe what's in the phone
Capability.
or what you have access to in the phone.
Yeah, no, and so just to answer real quick, I think Aditya's comments, like, you know, Sony, you guys are getting too many apps or so on. You could definitely see what they're focused on. The video portion of this, creating content like an alpha camera on a smartphone, with the 1-inch sensor, I realize the marketing part of it, but the reality is this centers the experience entirely into what you need to do. The experience, everything is actually leveled at the same level. All your cameras are on the same level. Basically the trinity of camera lenses, 16, 24, and 50 mil. That's one of the difference. That's different than what we saw with the 7 millimeters before with the Pro and the 1 Mark III. So there is a different approach to what they're doing with the Pro I. And I feel like it's one of those things you kind of have to understand and appreciate why they gave us the Video Pro. Now, the Video Pro is intended to be more of the run and gun professional tool, but very slightly less complicated UI wise than what you get with Cinema. I also feel like the rack and focus on, I don't think I could do rack and focus in Video Pro. That's still a Cinema Pro only, right? Where you're setting the two A and B point.
I think rack focus is in Video Pro. Hold on.
I couldn't turn it on when I went to manual. Cinema Pro is the only one that has the A and B points, and you just hit from one hit to the other. I know you can pull focus, but that's different. So, wow,
Oh, you're right. It just might be a manual
Yeah.
focus
No,
pull.
it's-
But you
it's
can do
purely-
a manual focus pull.
Oh, absolutely. But you know what I'm talking about, though. The one that we have in Cinema Pro, it actually, you set the different points. So when you set up your shot, like I said, Cinema Pro is really more. It's really meant for you to be behind the camera more so than you in front of the camera, because you're controlling the different aspect of it a little bit more. and it could be a little bit daunting. But then if you jump into Video Pro, you're going to be it's very familiar UI elements. And I like, again, with the display on the back, I can't wait to see what that does to the experience of using this on the road. Like when you're out, I'm not gonna lie. One of the things that caused me to, want to upgrade the A7S3, the A7 III to the A7 IV, is because I wanted that flippy display. It's that one thing that always drove me crazy. I can't see myself what I'm doing with the A7 III. So that little display that Sony put out, I'm hoping is backwards compatible and it works on everything that we have, and it's
But
going to be
it's
so much
such a
better.
simple, silly little touch, but you can get to setting up all of your settings
Hmm.
and then have a totally clean, I'm trying to dodge the NVIDIA background blur, totally clean UI.
Yeah, sorry.
So like you can pull up all of your,
All the display
meters
elements.
and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of your display elements, or you can
Sorry.
completely
Yeah.
wipe it all out and go
So
totally
for
clean.
everybody to kind of see that right there. So here on the display, you can display on, off, and then you have the different aspects in
Because
there. All of it.
here's the thing I love about a Sony. So here's my Vivo,
Hmm.
and when I go into video on my Vivo, everything to the right,
Oh, where the
right
controls are.
there,
Yeah.
so almost a third of my viewfinder, you cannot focus. You lose focus on
Because you.
a third of your video frame because they've got to have all this gunk of sliders and menu options and the shutter button and your
Hmm.
zoom controls and all this stuff up here for like image processing stuff. And I'll never forgive Apple for popularizing this stupid slider of menu options because they just keep cluttering the viewfinder that you're trying to compose your content from. So we
Yep.
can say like, oh, it's kind of complicated that there are 3 different apps on a Sony, but you go to the app and you're there. And you don't accidentally switch out of that app by trying to slide a setting, and then you get dumped out because you accidentally touched a part of the frame that's really to control something else. You can focus across your entire frame because there aren't UI elements blocking part of your viewfinder. And I know when people say like, oh, but look at all this confusing stuff, like when you pull up Photo Pro. And when I pull up Photo Pro, oh, look at all this. Look at all this stuff right here. And you're like, yeah, but when I focus on my viewfinder,
Everything there is.
that's
Yeah.
pristine. Nothing is on my viewfinder. It's just tiny little bits of information that I need to know in that moment
On the outer part of the viewfinder.
on the outer
Nothing is
part of the
Yeah.
frame.
Nothing is overlaid
So
over. Yep.
it's more camera-like, and so you're wholly focused on your composition. And I really don't feel like Sony software gets enough credit. People are way too angsty about not immediately getting a one shutter push, oversaturated, over vibranced, over contrasted, sharpened to hell HDR unicorn puke photo for Instagram, and are missing the fact that this shoots like a camera by design and is a much better platform for capturing more natural images or for giving you a better base to edit from after. But it's wholly built to focus you on the act of composition. So if you don't care about composition, then a lot of this won't matter to you. But if you do care about the look and feel of your photos and videos, there's going to be something here you're naturally gonna like engaging with.
Absolutely. No, definitely. And I feel like when I saw the app, when I started using it, I really enjoyed it. The composition and the way it worked. One thing that I'm still waiting for with every update that I get on the Xperia 1 Mark II is I want to get those the Camera Pro functionality to work on it. The updates haven't really rolled up. We're not getting a lot of the new software versions yet, and I'm hoping maybe with Android 12 when that becomes a thing. Hopefully,
Yep.
maybe in beginning of next year, we'll be able to start seeing some of those new apps and new functionalities. Video in, for the most part, works beautifully for me. I was using it with, honestly, I wanted to make the video with the Xperia Pro shooting video out to the Xperia 1 Mark II. But for some, I didn't want it to like, this guy has way too many Xperias.
Right.
I ended up using my my Shinobi, and it worked perfectly. And then when I was talking to, so Juan and I was talking, we're talking during the day, and I was like, I can't get video out to work, and apparently it's because it needs power, at least for the adapter that I'm using. I need to have power
Gotcha.
through the adapter for the Xperia to recognize and push out, for the Pro at least, to push
That
out
makes
video
sense.
out. Which again, not
I mean,
having the right tool.
it works if you use one of those little garbage USB HDMI adapters, but it
Yeah, yeah.
does seem to chug on the frame rate. So I don't think those are a great option to
Oh
really
yeah,
start
no,
off.
no.
It's just it's
For
what I
me,
have,
but I also wanted something big enough. Well, so the reason behind it is because the shot that I was composing, I was actually about like 10 to 15 feet away from the camera, and I needed to be clear, is small enough, or at least easy enough for me to recognize if I'm actually in frame or not in frame when
Yeah.
I'm zooming in. So it was fun for me saying, using the Xperia Pro I like a pro, run and gun it. And I explained it. My setup was way bigger than what Sony's offering you. Sony's offering you something you could probably put in your pocket. Like between the
Very true.
handle, the grip, and the little monitor, that thing can
Oh
actually
yeah.
fit probably in the back pocket. So I'm happy with that.
And
I'm
what
happy.
I'm thinking I'm going to start doing a little bit more of. I've been trying to look at how I can do just like a minor tweak
Hmm.
to my YouTube footage. And I think one of the things that I'm going to start looking at is how to frame for 21 by 9,
Oh,
but while
okay.
still uploading 16 by 9 video.
So then
So
when
I
people
need to shoot
crop
everything wider.
wider,
But
yeah,
if someone's on a phone and they pinch to zoom in,
your
everything is framed
yeah, your face doesn't get.
for
Yeah, I
21
I
by 9.
have that kind of set up for my the
I
way I
need to
do it
do the
here.
math on
Yeah, so
fixing that. Yeah.
that clearance that I have just about here, when somebody pinches zooms on my video, it becomes kind of like here.
And my big problem is shooting wide enough for my B-roll of the gadgets. I can
Yeah,
always shoot a little wider for me. I mean, that's really not the issue. It's
the
I
gadgets
have
too.
limited depth to kind of work with, like my little desk over there, or if I'm doing something handheld in front of the bookshelf, or even when I'm shooting outside.
Hmm.
I frame in my brain. I just have a natural feel for where things need to be for 16 by 9,
Well,
and that
it's been
means if I'm
ingrained in our
21
mind
by
for
9,
years. Yeah,
I've got to do that and shoot the same shot.
same
So
shot,
I've got to
back
play
up.
around with it. But I think on my mirrorless cameras, one of the things that I'm going to start leaning on is I still have my Xperia 1 Mark II,
Hmm.
using that as a production monitor so that I can get the frame guides, because my Panasonics won't give me frame guides for 21 by 9.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, no, no,
Drives me
I got it.
crazy.
Well, then, hey, that's a perfect usage for the Sony, and it's easy to set it up with a 4K adapter. That's not bad.
And it's already a better screen than what's on the back of the Panasonic. So
It's a 4K panel, man. It's better than most things on the market. No, no, I'm with you. Um, so I see. Ironically, smartphones manufacturers talk about cameras, and and reviewers covered that while leaving the other important features, but they'll also leave out important stuff when it comes to camera discussions. No, I mean it's a marketing thing. You got to realize. I mean, it's the team that's working the publicity of this is the marketing team. So they're going to focus on as more specific content, and our job is obviously to test them out and find all the little nooks and crannies, the little surprises
sure.
here and there. Um, you
Well,
know,
I've already seen a lot of YouTuber back padding.
mhm,
Like there was a kind of an infamous Twitter thread on some folks that we're actually friendly with,
mhm.
but just like, and I mean like Sony's way off the plot. Oh, way to charge way too much for a phone. Who would ever buy this? I mean, yeah, that sounds like some cool tech, but what would this even do for normal people trying to shoot on a Sony? And it was just like every perfect, like embodiment of this lowest common denominator average user review style that I'm over.
Mhm.
There is nothing average about phones once we climb above the price of a Pixel 6. Pixel 6 is now our peak of the mid-range, right?
Yeah,
That's the upper limit of what someone should spend.
for a
Up
mid-range one.
until
Yeah.
then, you have more specific or exacting needs to
Hmm.
spend more. If you don't, get a Pixel 5a,
Oh yeah.
especially while they're still cheap. Because anyone who's sitting there and patting themselves on the back for not wanting to review a Sony because average consumers, you're not clever. You're just showing everybody how basic you are and how you can't do anything more with a
There's-
better camera. So you're expecting the phone to try and impress you. That's not creative. And it's coming from people that I feel should know better than that.
It's yes. There's been a few rooms put together and conversations have been done. I jump in usually in and out a little bit. It is interesting. It is very interesting to see how people react to it. I think where Xperia Pro I comes in, it has it like with the kind of what you said with the Duo. It has a specific target audience. It's not intended to try to compete with everything on the market because it's not. It's not trying. Sony
It's
isn't trying to.
only trying to be a good mini tablet. It's a Surface.
It's a Surface. That's exactly
Yeah.
what Microsoft is trying to do, and it's an improved experience over the last generation. Sony comes in, and you obviously see that it's an alpha team controlling the devices now. That this is truly, slowly but surely becoming an alpha. It's going to be at some point we're going to get an Xperia Alpha. That's really what I feel like we're going to get. Quote me on this one, Sony. If you do, make sure you cover the cover. The Sony is really an alpha experience.
Have you already rushed off to like trademark that?
I should.
Xperia
It's just the
Alpha.
Sony Alpha, the Xperia Alpha, the TK Xperia, hashtag TK Xperia Alpha, guys. Let's just get it. I think we should make it now, and you'll see it on some subreddit at some point. Sony's making an Xperia Alpha. Did you hear? Yeah, it's going to have a massive 2-inch sensor. I'm like, what? Yeah. This is. I mean, when you go into a Sony, and not, it's because we've gone through at least this is like what, third or fourth generation devices that we've looked at between the one Mark II, the one Mark III, and then the Pro, and then this, and then the Xperia 5. So.
And this is also coming off of some of those disastrous years. Like it was really dicey while I was at Pocket Now.
Yeah.
Talking about Sony.
Sony was very
The X line almost tanked the entire division.
I was at MWC when they launched the X line. I remember
kind
that
of helped
yeah.
dig them out of the hole that the X performance line kind of almost shuttered. Sony's smartphone division.
Yeah.
And XZ kind of helped them tread water, but this new flavor of Xperia, starting with the One Mark I, has helped baby steps recover an entire division. Now we're into our second year of Sony showing sales growth and profit growth for this division, which is something LG couldn't show in years of keeping their smartphone division alive. So they're definitely on the right track. And anyone who's sitting there, again, snickering off on the side that Sony doesn't sell as many phones as Apple has completely missed the point. In many Asian circles, this is now the fashion flex. iPhones are ubiquitous. Samsungs are ubiquitous. Xiaomi's are ubiquitous. If you want to rock something special and you want to show off,
they cannot keep
Sony's
version of Sony. Yeah.
They cannot keep Sonys on store shelves in many Asian countries, especially throughout China. So this is an exciting time for a Duo, very specific idea of what a tablet should be. Mm-hmm. Sony, very specific idea of what a camera-centric phone should be. And that's also where Vivo is competing in the same space with a completely different take on a similar idea. And then Pixel is a very specific idea of what Android services should feel like. And none of these things do the same thing. At their most reductive, it's a slab of glass with a processor and a screen, and it takes phone calls. And that's where the differences end.
Yeah.
And from that point, there is no average consumer because they all start specializing in very unique ways, and everyone who picks one of these up is going to get a different experience, and that's what's phenomenally exciting to be wrapping 2021. I was so down on mobile tech getting to the end of 2020, and I'm getting to the end of this year very much refreshed on all of these different flavors of gadgets and gizmos.
Dude, this was okay. John Brophy just like he was watching a Japanese baseball stream, and everybody was streaming on MK1s and MK2s. I'm like, no, I mean 2 and 3s. No, absolutely. I mean this is their home turf.
Man,
and
Xperia One Mark II just rocked my socks for how much of a turn that was from the,
first Xperia.
No, from the Sony XZ Premium. their
Oh,
old
oh,
4K
yeah, yeah, yeah.
screened phone. That was a big, clumsy, premium 4K tablet phone. And Xperia 1 Mark II comes around, refining the Mark 1, which I did
Or
like, and it's it's still just a monster device. It's still just an incredible performer.
oh,
And so now to
absolutely.
see Mark twos and Mark threes out, I totally believe it. I totally believe on Sony's home turf in Japan, there is a lot of pride in how well those phones are performing.
Oh yeah, no, and Sony is focusing heavily on the Asian market now. We could see that the One Mark III was released in China way ahead of Europe, way ahead of the U.S. But I'm happy that at least we're still getting the focus. It's like that we had a couple of colors this year, so the device itself, the Xperia Pro I, went on pre-order today, right?
Yeah.
Today's the
Oh, it's up
28th.
on B&H. If
Yeah,
you buy it from B&H as opposed to buying it direct from Sony, you'll save a whole dollar.
I,
It's
hey man,
17.99 on Sony. It's 17.98
eight. I
on
I I
B&H.
I will say that that's a dollar well saved, my friend.
Heck,
And
yes it is.
I think you should go for. There's a couple of promotions going on as well. I think on this, I'm not sure if it's going to be an issue, but at Sony's, if you buy the entire kit though, with the accessory, the display and the grip, you can actually save about $100. So if you guys are interested, I'll try to remember to put the link. I forgot I was setting up everything so quick before the stream, I didn't get a chance to. But B&H has both of those as well. They have the combo and the standard setup. Goes on pre-order, and I think it comes out next month. Like right, this is actually a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Very surprising how Sony did it this time. They announced
But
pre-order and.
so they're executing very aggressively.
Mhm.
I would imagine this is a phone that's being built in incredibly small batches.
Oh, of course.
And so I seriously doubt there's going to be super high demand for an $1,800 unlocked Sony in North America. But I also think that probably means retailers are going to be getting dozens of them,
Hmm. Small
if
numbers.
if not just basing it completely off of pre-orders. North America is not a strategic market for Sony. Most of the manufacturing is going to go Japan first, China second, and then the Asian Pacific area third. Then EU
I was
is
gonna say
probably
thing.
next in line, and then North America as the distance. So I mean, again, for anyone who's in this chat, I don't know if anyone would seriously be considering a Sony. My recommendation on this is again, it's very specific. You have to know you want a production grade camera in your pocket. And I think a lot of people, if they're being honest with themselves, probably don't. But if you're in line for that idea, I can't believe that there are going to be a lot of these units making their way to North America.
I would, yeah, I agree. Every time we see this, and we see the shift in approach and the way when we see how things are released and how later it comes to the US, I wonder at what point does it become non-functional, non-beneficial, but for them to try to keep doing it, or do they even, allow other retailers to just bring their hardware in? I I think that's still I mean, the US still has a market for them. There's still love for
Oh,
Sony,
totally.
and
Oh, there's a
my.
lot of love, and again, as like an outlier brand,
Mhm.
now that I can kind of talk about it a little bit more, like I was showing it to my folks while they were here for Lex's birthday. I've been taking it out with me. I've been kind of like shooting photos with it. One of the parents at Lex's school, like, because it doesn't look right as a phone.
Mhm.
It looks incorrect. It looks too skinny. It looks too tall. So one of the other moms is like, "What kind of phone is that?" And like, it's a Sony. And you're like, they make phones? But again, she was curious what it was
To
that
start
I
with,
had in my hand when I was picking up Lex from
the
school.
the
So
look is actually very IP.
it's
It
very
has a very
incredulous.
yeah, it has a very sexy appeal to it. The setup, the way it's done, where it's like that bigger kind of bump in the middle, where everything else is smaller. You have the little blue icon next to it. So, no, I got the same reactions of it. I had the stickers on up till I started shooting a lot of the B-roll on Sunday night, and I
So
took off the
so
stickers.
like John Brophy in the chat is saying he's intrigued and he's considering one. But John, you're a journalist. this would be right up your alley
Hmm.
in the terms of like you need the immediacy of capturing content unfolding right in front of you and you're used to shooting on other cameras. This to me would be a business expense for
Yeah.
someone in that position. I write off my camera equipment on my taxes every year. An Xperia Pro I makes perfect sense that
It
that's
it is
something
it's
that would fit your
absolutely it's
workflow.
not just a computer in your pocket. It's also a production. It's a camera. It's a
Well,
mini
and for
media
journalism,
production. Yeah, yeah. No, no,
you got
absolutely.
a
That's what
higher
I'm saying.
quality sensor with an
Yeah.
even better photography control aspect, and then you can stop the lens down so that you know you're getting the best exposure that you can. And to me, that would take the pressure off always having to have a mirrorless or a DSLR at the ready. And
Well,
someone who
it's
doesn't
for like a
need
run and gun type of covering certain parts of CES
exactly,
even. Yeah, no, no, like so to
completely
me,
agree.
this is what one of the things I've as time has been going for me, I'm seeing more and more improvements on the handheld the experience, but like something like this, like you said, the Xperia Pro I is for me something that would replace taking a DSLR with me. Like I could go to TS with my normal phone and I'd taken the X Pro I just to kind of do those other accessories and remove the SIM card from it so I don't have to worry about signal, battery degradation, just run it like a camera. And then whenever I want to, no tool, take out the tray, put the SIM card back in, and you're popping and rocking and doing everything you want. So
Yeah,
very happy
it's
with it. Hopefully, we'll have a little bit longer time to be able to do more content on it. I know both of us kind of put out a couple extra videos on
so.
your.
Last week, or was it the week before? I was kind of teasing. I really wanted to do a Pixel 6 versus X70 Pro. And I don't like doing head-to-head comparisons because I think it's gimmicky when you show two photos from the same phone, and everyone who likes the Vivo says, "Well, obviously the Vivo took the better picture," and everyone who likes the Pixel is going to say, "Well, obviously the Pixel took the better picture." But I held off on that because usable camera surface area, Xperia, Vivo, and Pixel 6 are all now so close, but they're all fundamentally
Mentally.
different in what they're trying to accomplish. So instead of doing Pixel 6 versus Vivo, I'm going to work all three. So
Oh,
so so late next week, I hope to have it all cobbled together. Will be an Xperia 1 versus Pixel 6 versus Vivo
you mean the Xperia
X70
Pro
Pro
I?
Plus. I'm sorry, yes, Xperia Pro I
Oh, I was gonna say that
versus
because you're pulling pretty back. Like we're going back to Xperia One. I'm like, okay,
sorry, yeah, because
it's
it's
late.
an I and it's a one, and in my brain, Xperia Pro I versus Pixel 6 versus Vivo X70, and mostly focused on the main sensors because that's what we're
There's
gonna do.
similarities, and Vasicos
But
is
so Vasicos is saying blind taste test. I'm debating whether or not I want to make it more a conversation about what they're all built to accomplish. So
hmm
less of a versus and more of an explained. But
hmm
if I go versus, I'm not labeling because
I
that's
think
BS.
that's
But
that's the
the
way to do it because you've done it before,
but the
and I think
reason
that's the best experiment.
the reason why I might not do explained though is because the Xperia can shoot f4.
That's true. Two
So
F2 and
in
F4.
what setups am I picking different apertures for different scenes? And it, again, if you're really looking, you should be able to see pretty clearly, a full
Which one
stop
is
down.
pulling it? Yeah, exactly.
So I'm leaning a little bit. If you have suggestions or if you have a reason why like I need to make this just a blind shootout,
We
please let me
they're
know.
saying they want double blind taste test
So
actually. By the
even
way,
I don't know what they. I'll shoot all the samples with every phone in a complete cage, and I'll have Marie look at the
yeah, yeah.
screen so I don't
Or or
know
or, or you
which
just
phone
highlight
is
all the
which.
samples and you drop them into your timeline, not knowing which way they are, and you just
No
start looking.
idea.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no way to know.
Double
There's no
blind.
way
Yeah.
to know.
Even I don't
So
know which picture is what.
so I am leaning more towards the explained idea just because the Vivo philosophy is
Hmm.
completely different from the Sony philosophy, which is
And it's very
completely
different.
different from the Pixel philosophy. And I
Absolutely.
think there's less to glean because I don't believe those three are as direct competitors as
They're
people
not.
might
They're
think
not. They're
they
not in
are.
the same. Well, I'll take that back. Maybe the
There
Vivo
are a lot of
and the Sony.
similarities.
There's a lot of similarities. I mean, in the use cases because of the pro level. Uh, Pixel isn't really trying to be in the manual full
It
focusing.
bought
It's
it
really
bothers
more,
me that it's a Pixel 6 Pro and not a Pixel 6 XL.
yeah. And I
Because
actually,
Google won't give us a Pro mode. They push back against the idea of Pro style software, but they called their phone a Pro, and it's not.
and it does. So that was like I said, the first time when I heard the word pro, and I'm like, will we have it?
Pro
Because to
mode?
me, that's what I was expecting. I mean, like just have maybe if, like I said, maybe have it as a separate app even, or even have it like keep your main camera experience, but add like a pro camera or pro mode or pro app.
Yeah.
But
I would love to see Google's take on.
yeah, I mean that way you keep your primary experience still pristine, and it still meets the main experience. And then if somebody wants to take it the next step, they open up the separate app. And I think that's why Sony's experience makes more sense. If you want to be in a pro video experience, you jump to cinema, and if you want something less complicated, you jump into Video Pro. But if you just want to do auto mode, which I don't know why you would do it on an Xperia or any of these devices, you do have basic, and you have the ability of jumping into Camera Pro from there as a UI element. So the story is, at the end of the day, we have some amazing devices, a lot of new technologies. I mean, again, I can't wait to see the final version of this, because I really want to be able to test all of everything that they really are selling, or not selling us, but at least promising us at this point, because it's not available for sale yet. It's pre-orders only right now.
And Mr. Throwups is dead on. This is what I was screaming for on the Vivo. It's what I'm screaming for on the Pixel. But first-party accessories.
Oh yeah, no,
You're
definitely.
gonna tell us
They have a
that
leather
these
case
are-
on it. Yeah, they
Yeah.
there's a leather case, a first-party leather case, the grip, the display.
The display.
I those are the things
What
that I always
Sony-
approve.
What Sony needs to do, and this is not easy, so I'm not saying like, why haven't they? But what Sony needs to do is now we've got Pro I and like Xperia
Pro, Pro
1
I,
Mark
and
IV
1 Mark III.
will be out next year. They need to look at something feasible for a long-term commitment to doing their own optics. Some ND filters, like, so one of the Sony at one of the events before the pandemic I got to go to was a filmmaker and photography convention, and Sony was hosting a large part of it. But one of the workshops they had were filmmakers using the original Xperia 1 Mark I to do short films. That's a 1 over 2.55 inch sensor. It's a very smartphone-y look to the video. But he pulls out this case, and he had custom printed this 3D printed this custom case that allowed him to put on lens filters, just so that he could do proper ND filters to control his shutter speed.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
you're
I
like,
remember.
I'm looking at this, and you're like, they need to figure out a 3 to 5 year strategy where these camera-centric phones, heavily influenced, kind of completely controlled by the Alpha division, that they can come up with moment-style optics. Like maybe you want an anamorphic. Think about the
Anamorphic
21
lens,
by
yeah.
9 cinema mode on a Sony, and then think about optics to create a true anamorphic look to that footage, but first party, so it's perfectly fit to the Sony camera sensor, as opposed to messing with little clips and adapters and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Or having
And
to
it's
3D
not
print
easy, because
anything,
that
yeah.
means you need to plan ahead for your phone frame for 5 years. And
But,
that's
I mean, and they kind of have one.
well, they have now.
now, but yeah, with the 1 Mark II, the Pro and the Pro I, they all for the
1
most
Mark
part
II,
have
1
the,
Mark III, Pro and Pro
Yeah, and
I
Pro
all
I are
have
all same
very
frame.
similar frames. Yeah.
ever so slightly different. The Pro is ever so slightly thicker than at least the 1 Mark II.
Yeah.
Since I don't have the 1 Mark III on me, I couldn't tell. I couldn't have that reference point. But yeah, yeah, it's exciting. So hopefully we'll have a better conversation and maybe more time with it once it becomes available. If they're able to if there is units available for them to allow us to actually have a little bit more of a longer. I'd say, like after the retail conversation type,
Sure.
because we didn't get a chance to have one with the Xperia 1 Mark III, I think.
They're
which I was
selling
hoping
too
they're-
well
way
for their
too
PR to get review units.
which is
And
a good
that's
thing.
a very good problem to
that
have.
it's a very good problem for them to have, but it kind of puts it's just some of the new things I saw on the 1 Mark III. were the things I really was wishing for them to start coming out to the One Mark II, because I still love that one, but it's just as updates are coming up, I feel like it may be held at the full version of Android, which is what they kind of did with the One Mark II anyways. We didn't get video
Yeah.
until we jumped over to Android 11, which I understand. It they wanted to keep that as part of the major push. But we are pretty much hitting that magical hour, not hours, magical hour and 50 minutes timeline. So with that being said, so you'd probably say, I think for me it's the same thing, but my best part of the week really is Xperia 1 Mark III, sorry, Xperia 1 Mark III, Xperia 1 Pro I, and the Pixel 6 Pro being in the studio for me and getting a chance to spend some time
Oh
with them.
yeah.
And obviously still being able to spend more time with it. And I will be on the hunt for a Pixel 6 256. I need to get bigger storage, and I need to just literally live in
I
that
mean,
ecosystem.
like, I'm just gonna say, may the odds be ever in your favor.
Favorite. Oh
'cause,
my god.
man, the pre-orders
It's hard.
are
It's
getting
hard. No, there's no way to get it from Google's site.
Yeah,
And Best
they're
Buy is
tapped.
getting them in small batches, and they're carrying more of their locked versions. So they're really more focusing on, Sprint, T-Mobile,
Yeah.
and AT&T. But what kills me is, because I would have gone with T-Mobile. Don't get me wrong. I would have just gone with a straight
Mhm.
T-Mobile unit. They're not selling the higher capacities. They're selling
No.
only the 128s.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that. Like, why? Samsung does the same.
I think it's price point, and I think you don't want more expensive components sitting on shelves.
Yeah.
And so
I-
you wait to see when there's a tipping point of a certain number of consumers that are waiting in line for the larger storage options, and then you push that batch out. I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
know.
right now everyone's playing this so conservative because it's just a major pain in the ass just getting the components to cram into the
Oh,
phones. And it
don't get me wrong.
sucks.
But
it also means, like, if
thought
you
it was
don't get
gonna
in
be
line
fine.
now and you wait for them to show up, then
Well,
they're going to
I'm
be
kicking
gone
myself-
before you can get them.
It was more about, like, I should have known the day you went on pre-order to just put in for it. But anyways, it's in the past. There's not much I could do. I can wait as long as I can, or I can just keep, going to Best Buy every month, every day or so, hoping for them to have an extra unit there. But with that being said, there'll be a couple more videos. Hopefully, Juan's going to be pushing out his video tomorrow on so tomorrow's the Duo, right? Yeah. So we'll see how that kind of goes in there, and hopefully we'll
I've
see
got
you
a
guys
very
on Saturday.
important question to answer. If the Duo can be saved, can it be saved, TK? Can Microsoft save the Duo?
I don't know, man. I'm going to say only Juan will know. Only Juan will be able to say and tell us. I think from using it for a few minutes, I have to admire the technological improvement on the glass, on the hinge, on the overall feel of it. It feels so much better. Don't get me wrong, the first one is good, but like so much better in the hand. And not that I'm trying to bring it like it's not made out of sharp glass. But with that being said, only Juan, TK. Yes, only Juan. I got to stop saying only Juan. You said that before. That was why it's in my head. Hope you guys are doing well. Be safe, stay safe, of course, as usual. I'll see you guys on Saturday for another episode of Saturday Morning with Tech. And of course, back on Monday with Juan for his show, the SGGQA. For the very poorly named I love your intro, by the way. This is a very poorly named
worst
podcast.
name for a podcast ever. Yeah.
Ever. Yeah, but it's here. We're here for the QA, best part of the show. Hope you guys have fun. Let us know in the comments below if you guys, how do you feel about the cameras, the devices that we talked about, and if you have any questions you'd like us to cover. We'd look forward to seeing you. And we actually did pretty well. We gained 23 subscribers since last week, which is actually not bad. So welcome to the club. Anybody that's watching, like and subscribe, and take care for now. We'll see you next week.